We are live. Peace and Black Power family. Welcome to another episode of Knowledge Radio, place where knowledge is born. This is your host, Knowledge Born a Lot. And we got some serious business today. Like today has been very, very interesting with everything that's going on. And we definitely got some serious warriorship in the building today. Y'all just heard us earlier with Bob Rudy and Mama Yab Rudy on. And Mama Yab mentioned distinction and the said ability to be able to discern between who is for us and who is against us. And she mentioned a particular movement that may look like us, but is not for us. So she made that very, very plain of us to be aware of who's for us and who's against us. And I don't think of a stronger caveat to that particular position from Mamiya than to transfer that same energy than this African warrior we got right here. Thorough Black Talks on Brooklyn's own. My sister Keisha Hopkins Forrester is in the building today. Welcome to the show. Abibi Fahodier, Black Power, Black Love. How you feeling, sis?
Abibi Fahodier, brother. Abibi Fahodier, and thank you for having me and welcoming me once again to your platform. I'm excited.
Definitely. Bob Steve Cokie Sr. said, clarity is success on the battlefield. Because he got that epic series, Confusion on the Battlefield. And he was telling us and talking and letting us know what confusion on the battlefield looks like. And I think that is very, very, very apropos for this particular topic for you in regards to making this distinction very clear. So there is no confusion. So where there was or might have been confusion, there will definitely be some clarity. You understand what I'm saying? So um, first, how you doing? It's been a minute.
I'm good, brother. I'm good. Busy as usual because revolution is 24/7, 365. So,
Right.
I'm a little tired. I had to get a quick workout in before we went live. Just
Mm,
busy doing research and getting ready for next month, 100 years in the whirlwind. We
right.
celebrating 100 years, the RBG connection, the flag, the movement, man, the mission, and where we are now and where we must go. I'm ready.
Now, you as a political scientist, you know how important propaganda is. So whether we got proper propaganda or improper propaganda, based off of this landscape of, I say, you know, since we've been here, but the last 10 to 20 years in specific, since this advent of social media, you've seen many things happen and many of our movements be hijacked by simple propaganda tools. So if you could, kind of give us an assessment as a political scientist and a strategist, from this African Center, how have these things been manipulated cleverly to have us looking in one direction and thinking that we are aligning ourselves with something that is good for us, but it's been nothing but our detriment.
Well, first, let me just say this. One of the things that hinders us from seeing that and keep falling into the same traps is that we don't study the mistakes of history quite often and then use that as a mechanism to garner intelligence. So what I mean is that you look at world governments and I'm looking for what we're going to do when we get free. That's where I'm at right now. But when you look at world governments, they employ the CIA. There is intelligence gathering, and that intelligence is used to keep those governments in a position of power that they are in. We keep falling into the same traps because we do not have an intelligence arm of revolution. When you look at all of the great movements that have come in the past, going to the Garvey movement, Elijah Muhammad, Nation of Islam. You look at the Black Panther Party. You look at, organization after organization, even scholars who have been dismantled because there isn't a intelligence to this. That's one of the things that I have seen um, as a common thread with every one of us, no matter what your platform is. Even us in media, we have to rely on an intelligence arm to give us information that so that we can properly report it to the people. And that's one of the reasons why I keep my circle small. Also, I have an intelligence wing to what I do. These people, some know each other, some do not, but all have a common goal in getting us information and getting that information to me so that I can give it all to you and educate you um, as much as we possibly can using these mediums. You mentioned, this social media and streaming. We use it as a mechanism. However, it is not ideal because as an intelligence arm of this, things have to be done clandestinely. And we have to, take note of that. So that's where I'm at on that.
Definitely. I think the, we need counterintelligence for these these stupid programs that appear intelligent, and we need to be able to gather intel. One of the things that was shown in that Black Panther film is that they had war dogs everywhere. They had war
Fact.
dogs all over the planet to operate in secret. So, in order for them to be able to effectively operate in secret, they had war dogs all over the planet. So
Mm-hmm.
now, if you're looking to be a pacifist, you got your war dogs out there to gather and bring back and kick back intelligence for you to hide. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and Chidaka's goal is we are already ready everywhere. So now the mission mandate changed. Had he assumed power on that throne, anybody who was a problem to African people would have been eliminated in no limited time. So that's not something that you want to seed into the mind of people that you're using improper propaganda campaigns to keep in a state of powerlessness and hopelessness. So you get a little improper and proper propaganda mixed together because if we study the Haitian Revolution, we knew that Haiti had spies all over the planet in that same kind of fashion. So they did the knowledge to our history and our sojourn and what success in the battle looks like, and then co-opted it and had it looking like the only thing that Africa could give Africans in the diaspora is a daggone community center. So they would rather show you in a passive state and a meek kind of state than in that warrior state that you descend from. How they started in a war sense and organized themselves from 5 different tribes around the idea of the protection of all, that collectivism. And the ones who were against it was like, we Maroons, we going to the mountain. We ain't got no time for that. You understand what I'm saying? All of this kumbaya stuff, we not messing with y'all. We about to get maroon. You see what I'm saying? So like they show, a bunch of factors in that place, and they did a good job psychologically with the feel good, happy type of situation, but not a very good job in regards to how we get busy. The only time they showed us getting busy was against each other. That was another great strategy. And we see this a lot in regards to this social media platform showing us repetition after repetition after repetition, so we become desensitized to Black Death. Hence, this place where we are with Black Lives Matter, this particular slogan, that they hijacked again from some real people that was getting busy and turned it into everything else. So, from some of those organizations you've been involved with over this time, you know how they come and how they move. So, I definitely want to put the focus on differentiation. What are some of the things that regular brothers and sisters that are out that are hungry, they tired and they want to get involved? What are some of the things that they could look at when they begin to seek to organize themselves in a place where they're mobilizing towards an organization?
Well, right now, on the ground, you should always look to grassroots movements. They are the easiest for you to get involved with and the easiest for you to actually do some intelligence to see if that movement is going in the proper direction, right? And what I mean by that is, let's say, like you said, you have a community center, a per se. And the community center, they're teaching Black women how to read, right? Get your GED. Let's say it's a GED program. We have to learn how to operate like spooks who sat by the door, right? So take that class, understand the mechanism of how that operation works, so that if you yourself see that there are problems within that, you can approach the leadership of said organization and then put before them your plans. Now, if it's in total indifference to what they are doing, and you see that as problematic, you use the information that you garnered while you were in there to dismantle them politically. Um, we'll get into that a little bit later, but that's one of the other things that hinders us from being progressive. And so, one of the things about the Garvey movement, people talk about when he arrived here in the United States and, flourished with the UNIA. But what I recommend our people to look critically at and to study is the time he was in Jamaica when he ran for political office and what that platform was. Um, in studying that, you can understand why there were outside influences involved in his political machine. He had to be stopped. So I recommend everyone please study his political platform before he arrived here in the United States. We as a people have to become more politically astute because we have to learn how to use this machine against itself. You cannot dismantle it. So let me just put that out there. You cannot dismantle it. Even if it crumbles, its philosophy will continue to live on. That's why we continue to deal with generation after generation after generation of these onslaughts of attacks, murders, injustices, however way you wish to put it. We keep dealing with this generation after generation after generation because we don't understand just how that works. So please, family, I just implore you to study his political platform before his arrival to the United States. And if you are someone who wants to get involved, you want to do something, I'm going to tell you, you have to follow independent Black media, because independent Black media are now the voices that can lead you in the proper direction. That's what mainstream media uses. We have to use the same umbrella. And we have to propagate our agenda. As I say, by hook or crook, we have to propagate our agenda. So please, follow independent Black media. reach out to various hosts, you know, independently, and see the info or ask them for information, um, to help you in your journey and getting involved. Because, as Professor James Small once said, it's our humanity that tricks us often. You see something, you want to get involved, the emotions get involved. However, the strategy is not involved. There isn't any steering committees in the communities anymore. So you have to pay attention to independent Black media like Through the Knowledge Radio, Thorough Black Talk Radio, and others.
Yeah, others is few. So you got to use certain
Right.
litmus tests to see what's going
Correct.
on, because there's an abundant amount of people that are out here that purport to be Black media. However, upon further investigation, you see
Facts.
that they have inclinations towards blackface media. So Eurocentric value systems and the like, Eurocentric attitudes and behaviors under the guise of blackface. So they put a dashiki on their on their milk of magnesia, you know, talking points and all of these things. So, in the presence of our enemies, they wish to be accepted, wish to be honored, wish to be loved, wish to be revered amongst them, and they will sell us out to do it. So, there are litmus tests to use, and the politics are always when you get into how these inner workings and what they support and whom they have on their platforms, things like that. So do some investigative research and your due diligence on these platforms as well before you align with them, just like you would do for these organizations that out here.
Facts.
So this Black Lives Matter movement, this machine right here, uh, can we get into these layers a little bit um, topically? Because I know on at the conference you're gonna go all the way in. So I'm just trying to get a few points, for the family that's listening, so we can kind of get aware of what's going on.
Definitely. Let me just start out by saying, um, the topic that I'm going to be dealing with at the conference is RBG versus COINTELPRO. And I'm going to leave it at that. You got to get ready for the concert because I'm going to develop a whole lot of information that you're gonna want to know. But this Black Lives Matter movement um, was founded by a Black female who purports to be lesbian, who has a Caucasian lover, and that's her choice or whatever she want to do. And the other one, I don't even know their names because I could care less. Any organization that is not Black led and Black financed and have an African centered family structure as the main goal of its philosophy is not for you. So if it's a movement for, as they said, to queer out the movement, what does that mean? Let's stop right there. To queer out the movement, what does that mean? You have to ask yourself these questions. I know what it means, but do you know what it means? There's more I'm going to get with on later on in August. I don't want to reveal too much because I'm trying to savor it. But you have to ask yourself these questions. 2, where are their finances coming from? 3, where are their corporate headquarters? Every organization should have a corporate headquarters. I don't care if it's in a basement of a church. It has to have a corporate headquarters. Now, if you have a movement with over $100 million in revenue, where are your corporate offices? 2, who are these people that are speaking on behalf of said people coming from? You've never seen them in your neighborhood. You've never seen them in the city where you live at. Who are they? Where are they coming from? And how are they able to co-opt the movement? You have to ask yourself this question as well. Any organization that would align itself with said enemy that they are trying to protest against is a farce. So you have to look at things, just step back and just look at things, and then use a historical reference to guide you in your decision if you should be involved or not. With this organization or this movement, who are its attorney representation, meaning who are the attorneys? A movement cannot really be successful without a legal component to it. You need a legal component and you need a political component. If their political component, which we have seen, so I'm not making this up, and neither is Do the Knowledge Radio, but their political arm of it is the LGBTQ. That's not Black. So I don't understand how is it that, well, I do understand. How is it that, we are so easily tricked to get involved in such things? You went out there a month ago and there was rampage and people wreaking havoc all over these cities, these urban metropolises, and you were made to be to blame for it. That's because there was no vetting system. There is no political arm that is in the interest of Black people and the Black family. And there is no Black financing of this said movement. So we have to step back and just look at some things and ask ourselves some critical questions before we make a decision, a rash decision to get involved, because I saw a lot of people out there with T-shirts on and waving the signs, and you thinking that you're fighting for yourselves. However, you're fighting for an agenda of another group. And in that 6-week rampage that took place, there was some legal legislation passed on behalf of the LGBTQ while you were on the ground kneeling with your hands up. So let's just think for a minute, people. And that's why I said, as my brother said, you have to follow some form of media that can give you this information straight with no chaser and tell you the God's honest truth.
Yeah. Well, you was out there kneeling and twerking and all kind of other stuff. It's there to make a spectacle. You don't go from military violence and onslaught to celebration. So there was many people, Sister Keisha, they was mad. They were mad at me talking about, what are you talking about? I said, how do you protest your enemy's actions with your enemies present? How does that work? How does this situation happen? You're out there because of what happened, and you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. You take to the streets, and your enemies are out there marching with you. Your enemies are out there with you, handing you signs. Your enemies are out there with you, spray painting Black Lives Matter. So all of these things are happening and taking place, and you're looking at this situation and you're saying to yourself, you don't feel upset. You feel vindicated. You feel vindicated that your enemies are present, all of them. And then this is supposed to be a global phenomenon that takes place all across the globe. The whole globe is in a total uproar, and you feel vindicated. And now your talking point is, you see knowledge, you see, look, they're with us. They understand our plight. No, they're capitalizing off of our condition, as they always do. Always. So they're like, oh, they're supposed to. They feel better because they're out there with your enemies are placing bricks for you to destroy property. Your enemies are there brutalizing you and beating you down, and you're dancing with them. So the psychology that goes along with it, the psychology that goes along with the vindication of the oppressed, loving their oppressor, continues to further have us be advocates for our oppression, our devastation, and destruction. So now, on this whole situation in the landscape across the United States, black people were being killed everywhere they found them. So they had their agenda. This other organization that's funded and operated and controlled by them, they took the name. The name belongs to them. Black Lives Matter is theirs. I'll give you another historical reference. The historical reference of the I Have a Dream speech is the reason why they play it every single year. Is because it's theirs. The Martin Luther King Day is theirs. This is why they give it to you. You see what I'm saying? So the same thing you see with this legislation and they're pushing with Juneteenth, it's theirs now. When they grab a hold to it, it's theirs. So it becomes their agenda. It has nothing to do with you, nothing to do with us. So we're looking again for our enemies because we are not politically astute to put things in place as if they're going to be the ones that are going to enforce them. This is what Baba Malcolm was teaching us. The Desegregation Act and all of these things. So with that, we have to understand how these things go. I was talking about this last night. The whole purpose of integration was to set up a situation to where you go to work on their jobs, they give you money, and they direct where your money goes after you get it. This is what the purpose of integration was. This was the entire purpose, and this is why it was Jew-led and Jew-funded. This is what the whole desegregation thing was, because they wanted to control the dollar and see where that dollar goes and to ensure it went right back into their pockets. So you would not build anything of your own, that you wouldn't invest in the communities of your own. They tell you that these were subpar and substandard conditions that you existed in, and you were fine there. We were fine there. We were good. So with this push for integration, social integration, it was a tool, an artful tool to be used by these devious bastards to get every dollar right back into their pocket. So they basically loan it to you. So even if you see these situations with payday loans and all of this stuff, look at the science. So as soon as you receive your money, it goes right back to them. Overdraft, all of these things that approach you from a place where you don't even think about it. You don't even consider these things. You go to work 8 to 10 to 12 hours, 15-hour days, all of that to direct your spending power right back to empowering the people that will continue to topple over you. And that's all of it. Everybody who isn't an African benefits off of our suffering and devastation. And you think you have a friend. When Baba John Henry Clark reminded us so bravely and told us, if you want a friend, look in the mirror. So we need to move very, very astute in these matters and really look at it critically. Because once emotions get involved, we become blinded. That critical thinking tool is there. So if someone is trying to play at your heartstrings, if someone's trying to enthrall you towards something that they are not going to be in a position to cover down for you after, you need to forget about it. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of those ones, we had a lot of these people who look to rabble rouse or look to appear a certain kind of way. To the untrained eye, it looks good, but to the trained eye, it looks like another detriment. They will not stand for you. They will not back you up. They will leave you for dead and disown you. And go tell boss, hey, boss, I don't have nothing to do with that right there. You understand? So, and they do it through this artful use of propaganda. These propaganda machines out here, and they push this. They play on your heartstrings. These corporations are telling you that your lives matter, your dollars matter, your life don't matter. Your dollars matter, and your children's dollar, and your grandchildren's dollar. They matter. This is why they're painting this picture. And this, like, they got yard signs out. I see people with Black Lives Matter posting their yards. Gotta remember
Same
what's going
here.
on. You
Same
gotta
here.
remember what's going on. They are not looking for anything other than your detriment and destruction. And as long as you are a willing participant in this, you're an advocate for your destruction.
Facts. Like I said, I was doing research earlier today, for next month. And one book, that I was looking at is this book here. It's Thomas Jefferson, The Art of War. And, people talk about Sun Tzu's Art of War, but when you look at Thomas Jefferson's Art of War, he brilliantly explains how to use a people's suffering for your own gain. And that's exactly, what you explained. You look at the t-shirt manufacturers. Even though you're buying it wholesale and they're producing it for you, who are the manufacturers? These are things we have to understand. That's why I said, people always say, quit your jobs and, you need to be independent. And I want everybody to stay right where they at. Stay right where they at and gather that intelligence, right? Because say, for example, you're working for a huge corporation and you've been there 10, 20, 30 years, some people, right? But you come out of that situation, you're retired or what have you, and you do not funnel that information to the business community. And the business community have to be open to that as well. So, for example, we're celebrating 100 years RBG, right? If we have a political and a legal arm to this, we can sit down and do business, let's say, for example, with a JC Penney. Here's the thing. Here's how we have to approach that. Yeah, you can sell RBG t-shirts to the public, but we will control it. You will buy from our manufacturers. You will buy from our printers. When you market the product in your store, you have to deal with our marketing agencies. We would have a commission, a marketing commission that will go out and inspect the marketing put before the people to make sure that it is not derogatory, that the people who we sit down and do business with are not manipulating our message in producing or selling said products. This is how big business works. Nike could care less about what you think or if you're in the middle of a protest wearing their shoes. They could care less as long as the sellers of their product adhere to the philosophy of Nike. We have to garner the same. Some of us celebrate Kwanzaa. We should already had a control on that, that so that those dollars come back to us as a community. There was no commission. So, for example, to put it simplistically, you go into a supermarket and the supermarket can sell kosher products. In order for that supermarket chain to sell those kosher products, a rabbi has to come by and give his approval before you can sell such said product. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that they are always in the loop and they are always getting the finances back from that. Going back to what you said about how, they co-opt our movements for their own agendas. You look at a community such as the Hasidics here in New York, right? They have not only brilliantly swooped in politically to take hold of certain neighborhoods that we once had. On top of that, they use their philosophies, their religious philosophies and ways of life to separate themselves for their own benefit. So say, for example, there is a divorce, a dispute between you and your spouse. They have rabbinical courts to deal with that. They don't have to deal with our courts or United States courts. They don't have to deal with that. They have their own political apparatus, their own court systems, and they have their own security or police department right here in the city of New York. So they have control over those who police them. So they are not going to be worried about some outsider, say, for example, who lives on Long Island, to come in and have a gripe with them and shoot and kill one of them on the street. They don't have that problem. We have to understand that. So whatever we do, I would hope that coming out of this RBG Whirlwind conference, that there is a commission established that no one can sell this, can profit off of this, unless we have total control of it. Who sells it? How many they sell? When they sell it? Is it a seasonal thing? Do we want to have a legal holiday specifically for Black people to come out of this? We need a commission for that. So that means, during the Chinese holiday, Black people still got to work, right? Chinese folks is off. What holiday can you tell me specifically for Black people? There is none. So now, out of this, we can have an RBG holiday. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg goes by the 3 alphabets RBG. If we had a legal component, they would issue a cease and desist where she could not use that. Media platforms could not use that in reference to her. So this is what I'm saying about how we're going to control. There are going to have to be some commissions put in place so that we don't lose this. This is a great work that the brothers have put together. Bomani, Kuji Chakalia, and many others who have put this together. We have to now locally push politicians to make this a legal holiday specifically for us. That should be on the platform right now. So for those who want to do something, that's something you can do.
I agree. I spent 17 years in the military, and from a religious accommodation standpoint in the army, if a Jewish soldier dies, no one is allowed to touch that body. That's not a Jew. No autopsy is performed outside of what they have going on. So this is the level in the reach. Now you're talking about the military. They have their own law and justice system. This is superimposed in their program, disguised as religious accommodation. So anybody else, they do what they want. They do not touch a Jewish soldier's body. So that's the kind of reach, just to give a little further, on that situation. So I want to talk to you about something off since I got you here. The political landscape in regards to reparations. We got the Cobra conference coming at the end of the month, leading into Black August. So I want to see, what that looks like from your perspective in regards to this reparations conversation. Where should we be with that? And what level of priority should that be
on? We should definitely be on the page of financial compensation immediately. That must be on the table. We have to continue to push that forth because financial compensation will allow us to do other things that we must do. Even if, some people talked about land appropriation and so on and so forth, well, finances will help maintain such. So we have to put that on the table first and foremost. We cannot allow political candidates and pundits to tell us that we should wait for a study. We should um, look at programs because a program is just that. It's not liberation. We have many programs, always have programs, and we still in the same position. That no longer works. We have to make it plain that those financial repercussions should be specifically for Africans here in the United States. I know a lot of people say that other um, African people from different parts throughout the diaspora have also suffered here. What I wish to happen is that, say, for example, where you have brothers and sisters from the Caribbean, per se, simultaneously as we are fighting for reparations here, I want you to reach out to your folks back home that they must continue the fight on their end to push against the British, to push against the Belgians, to push against the French, to push against the Spanish, and so on and so forth. We must do this simultaneously. That is what the whirlwind is about. That is the reason why um, the voice of Callie House was stifled, is because she put on the agenda financial reparations for us all, and that we have to all collectively fight together. I don't want our brothers and sisters who are on the continent of Africa, if you're in Europe, if you're in South America, or in the Caribbean, to sit and wait for a minority, of which those of us in the United States are, as compared to the rest of the world, to fight the bulk of this fight. Please get involved. You too must fight back, because collectively is how we break this machine. Collectively. So you all have to do your parts as well, and let's all get what's rightfully ours. It's time we all take it back.
Definitely. And this being an election year, I need your political analysis again as a caveat. Since you were there, we talked about reparations, this political landscape in this election year. Uh, what should be our particular posture? I don't listen to too many people when they start talking about voting. You're like the only person, you and like one other person that I could listen to when it starts talking about voting elections and things like that, and being politically astute and being politically aware. So definitely anxious to hear your thoughts and your take in regards to that.
Well, let's use the mechanisms that we have, the tools within our hands, as Adam Clayton Powell Jr. brilliantly said to us. Let's use what's in our hands. Just me, myself, um, approaching various social media platforms of political pundits have steered the conversation away from what they were trying to push on us. Um, I would go, let me just speak on the Biden campaign, just to be frank. There was a comment made on his Twitter page saying that black people, we ain't black unless we vote for him. You know, who the hell is he to tell us what we are and what we aren't? And so, I sat back and I wrote back on the comment, that it was inappropriate, number one. Number two, we will tell him what he is going to do for us. I want us to understand this right here and right now. We are the balance of power in the Democratic Party. We are the balance of power in the Democratic Party. Two, I want us to understand that, and if you're going to go that route, if that is the route you wish to go, make sure that you have an agenda that you put before each politician that you are voting for, so that they understand where it is that you come from, what it is that you stand for. You have to be involved, family. You have to be involved, if not even to just be spooks who sat by the door. You have to be involved. As the climate currently stands, Donald Trump will get another term because there is division within the Democratic Party because we are waking up. Some of us a little bit faster than others, but we are waking up and we are starting to question. So use the tools within your arsenal. Go into their Twitter feeds, and when they make comments or make suggestions, you come back. You come back with what we need. So I was pushing reparations hard on the Biden timeline. So much so that his campaign reached out to me. And they asked me a series of questions. I answered those questions to the best of my ability. And I believe I did very well because they could not sway me to their platform. They eventually relinquished to the point where they asked me if to join their campaign because they couldn't sway me. And so when you are politically astute or socially astute, you know what we need. Look around you. Look at your very life and your very families. You know what you need. Be aggressive, whether it's a city council person, whether it's an assembly person, whether it's congressional, whether the Senate, and particularly these judgeships. Go on their social media platforms and combat what they're trying to force feed you. You understand what I'm saying? We as a people, I can't stress this enough. Please, the most critical office in your county are the judgeships. These are the offices that are least publicly campaigned to you, meaning you don't see very many commercial or advertisement as far as it relates to these judgeships. You have to know their background because it is the judgeships that control the system. They are the gatekeepers. So when, let's say, me and Knowledge Born, we walking down the street and we both got on 100 Years in a Whirlwind t-shirt and we're just talking amongst ourselves and we get accosted by law enforcement who may assume or put out that we may be members of some sort of gang, right? You need to understand who these judges are. They understand clearly. You also have to go to these banquets. You know, I go to these banquets. Sometimes I'm the only pepper in a bowl of milk, but I go so that I can get intelligence to bring back to you. Sometimes I have to give a donation or what have you, and I do that because information costs. So I want us to understand that if we're going to go the voting route, that you become active in your local offices and what they are doing. If they're not doing anything, you should know. Let me just explain this brief point. Here in New York City, in areas that are populated by Caucasian groups, whether it be Greeks, Italians, Hasidic, whatever. You have your local city council and assembly persons' offices in those communities. You will always see the older people of said community sitting around those offices. They get all the information and they spread it around in the community. And this is a fact. And if you don't believe me, look at any political campaign. They always go to senior citizens groups. Why do they do that? Why do they do that? It's because those seniors spread information or intelligence into the communities. They are the gatekeepers for the community. You'll see them, like, for example, you have A person who is on the city council here in New York City, last name Rose. He represents South Brooklyn and Staten Island area. If you go around his office, you will see all the older guys playing dominoes or checkers or whatever they're doing over there. They sit out there every day. They know all the ins and outs of what he's doing, who's coming in and out of that office, and so on and so forth. And they are the gatekeepers of the community. Now, in our neighborhoods, how many people do you see sitting around these political persons' offices? You don't. You don't see them. You can walk right into these people's offices and you'll be the only one in there. There are no gatekeepers anymore. Back in the days, like I come from Fort Greene, Brooklyn. In Fort Greene, the gatekeepers for the political arm was always the tenant patrol. You had tenant patrol in every building. Some elder was in the community sitting tenant patrol, and you had other people who helped out with that. Going to these tenant patrol meetings, you would garner a whole wealth of information about what was coming down the pike. I knew about the gentrification of Walt Whitman and Ingersoll houses in Fort Greene back in the 80s when I was sitting tenant patrol. I knew what was coming down the pike. And we have to become more involved. So if you live in a public housing authority or what have you, start up tenant patrol again. Know who these people are that claim to be your tenant leaders. Who are these people? Where they come from? How are they family? You know who's greedy and who's a bum and who use people in the neighborhood. They shouldn't be the captains of these tenant association. Are you crazy? No, we got to be gatekeepers and stop all that. So, that's where I'm at with it. And of course, I'm going to go into it a little bit more next month. So I hope everybody's ready because this is going to be on.
We definitely ready. We ready. People chopping at the bits now, trying to get a little bit of more information. Like hopefully she say a little bit more of what's going on. Um, I think the last thing I want to talk about is, you know, as a caveat to what we've been talking about in regards to business, what about, chamber of commerce in these particular communities as well? Are these still a viable option? Should our people be looking into them, and should we be looking to organize amongst ourselves to form our own chamber of commerce? So I just wanted to speak to that last aspect in regards to business.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like here, the Brooklyn Business Chamber of Congress. Go there, see what they're doing, get the information. Gotta be a spook who sat by the door, right? Um, Oscar Michaud, a brilliant filmmaker and director in silent films in the early days. He had a film. I can't remember the name of it right now, but there was a film where um, all of the business people in Harlem formed their own business chamber of commerce because they couldn't get information and access to grants to start their business or to help their businesses grow. Great film, and I would recommend our people to look at the filmmaker Oscar Michaud and the silent films he did in the early 1900s and the early 1920s, because those silent films give you a lot of information about how business and social organizations came together to make sure that they encompass and maximize, all of the wealth in Black communities, in particular Harlem. So we're going to definitely have to do that. We definitely have to form our own chamber of commerce. But in the meantime, use the tools within your arsenal. Take the information that they give you. Ask questions. You'd be surprised of what you can get when you go in. I spend a lot of time at the New York City Municipal Archives building because I'm always researching something. But you know, when you go in there, Unless it's a reporter of some sort of mainstream media outlet, you don't see us in there. If you're a serious researcher, you have to know the municipal archives in which you reside or what it is that you're researching. We have to be involved. You know, if you go to downtown Brooklyn, on Geralamo Street, um, the public law library, you know, we're not in there. You know, as organizations, we have to go. We have to also go to these college campuses, and recruit political science majors, law students. We have to recruit them. We have to go into these schools. When we were running a Michael Gray's mayoral campaign in New York City, we went to Mega Evers, and we got in contact with some legal students there and some other students there to help us with a platform so that they can get their message out to the college students of voting age in that area. Um, we don't do that anymore. We don't do that anymore. And I have to say this because I want you to be in the right frame, my way of thinking when we do this next month. Um, we're going to have to also start forming our own political parties. They have to be black led and black financed. 100%. We have to control that. Because, as I said, as we dismantle the Democratic Party, we have to have something else for the people in order to push our agenda afoot. So, you know, that's a component we have to look at.
Got a question right here, Sister Keisha, if you wanted to deal with it real quick before we close.
Okay. This one on the screen.
Yes.
Okay. Black business associations are very silent for so much to be going on. What are they there for? That's because we are not making them do it. This is why I'm saying we have to be visible where they are. Black businesses, black business associations should work in component with your local politician. So, say for example, if Knowledge Born had a black business commission in North Carolina, he has to work in component with the city council of said district. So that way, that city council person can allow his commission to hold town hall meetings with people who are interested in grants, who are interested in how to form a business, if said business is viable in a neighborhood. You have think tanks that count just the footsteps that persons make in an area to see if the traffic would be good enough for business. We have to be more vigilant and demanding that to be so, instead of looking at it as saying, you know, well, we have our own. No, we don't have our own if they're not doing the job that they have to do. And sometimes they may not know that. We have to tell them that, you know, if you do something against a philosophy of other ethnic groups, they're going to let you know that. They're going to let you know that. And we have to also get out of the mind frame of looking for a leader, right? Other ethnic groups, they do have a leader. They do have leaders. And their leaders make things happen. Our set leaders do not. You get a march and you get a painting in the middle of a street that is anti what you're doing. That's what you
Right.
get, right? So other ethnic groups, they have mechanisms in place that if you don't comply, we're going to remove you out of office. We're going to remove you from a job. We're going to remove you from a business. You cannot do business here, right? So let's just say here in New York City, a part of the charter and the lease agreement of people who live in NYCHA housing, right? Around NYCHA housing, you have bodegas, you have laundromats, you have businesses, different businesses around. According to the RAD and the charter, those businesses rightfully belong to the tenants of NYCHA, right? So there shouldn't be other ethnic groups like, an Arab community or Hispanic community or an Asian community coming in and getting access to grant money that rightfully belong to you. Now you have all of these tenant association leaders in NYCHA, and nobody has done anything or moved the needle 1 inch to this being a success for us. Those stores, those laundromats, all of that business surrounding NYCHA rightfully belong to the tenants. Even the employment within NYCHA, say for example, the housing assistants, you have maintenance people. First dibs on those jobs were supposed to come out of the tenants. No one, no legal arm, I should say, has formed a class action lawsuit against both the city government, the state government, and HUD, the federal government. All broke the law. And that's why you had this big scandal with NYCHA right now. They're trying to push responsibility on the mayor. The mayor is trying to push it on the governor. The governor is saying it has to do with HUD. You even had during the last presidential election, you had some black woman who claimed to be a part of the Trump administration come in and want to spend a night in various NYCHA housing complexes to see what life was like. And she herself said it was deplorable, but she did not come back and tell the tenants that we have broken the law. That's why I said we need attorneys, we need black law firms to take this on as a class action. Even if you are robbed, beaten, family members murdered within NYCHA, it is NYCHA's responsibility to employ security on their grounds. They've negated that since they started it in the 1940s. They've negated that responsibility because they would have to pay salary to the said tenants in those buildings. When we were sitting tenant patrol back in the 80s, you wasn't coming in our building doing no craziness. We knew who was who and who was doing what. And those buildings were safer back then. This is during the crack era. So I'm just saying that we, the people, are going to have to put pressure on these organizations, on these political representatives, on these even clergy said leaders. Who are they to come to us, and tell us that we have to have a gun buyback program? Why do we have to always have a march and a protest when there's violence or said violence committed against us, said by us, but you don't do the same for other groups that you represent, right? So say if there's a shooting on Staten Island in Shaolin houses, but nobody, and there's a gun buyback program after that, there's a prayer vigil after that, there's some kind of committee form, and it does absolutely nothing because it still continues. But you never see that in other communities, right? You never see that. You just had a judge shot and murdered, son shot and killed, husband shot by some sort of attorney. Where are the prayer vigils for her community? Why they don't have gun buyback programs for them? Police protests shouldn't be in black communities. They should be in the white communities. Not an hour. So we're going to have to get more involved, fam. We have to get involved. We have to make these mechanisms do the jobs that they said they're going to do. And if they're not going to do it, push them out. Embarrass them and push them out. They got to go. So that's my stance on that.
Yeah. I think when we look at these other nations and their satellites, I think we kind of get confused. We see we like to do comparative analysis with these other nations. These are nations. We're not a nation. This is where you get leaders from. Leaders are people that are elected or appointed to a position to represent an aspect of your nation. We don't have any leaders. We have organization heads
Facts.
who may
Like,
speak.
not to cut you off, brother.
Go
Facts,
ahead.
because like here in New York or any Hasidic community, as I said, before, if a Hasidic male is drafted into the military, right?
Mhm.
The Grand Rebbe can write a letter and say he not going to war, and he ain't going to war.
Right.
You don't have black clergy with that kind of power, so you're not a leader. You can't
Right.
do anything for me. Nothing. Because if you could do something for me, we wouldn't be continuing to suffer in the same misery. We fighting the same problems that our ancestors fought. Same.
Right.
That don't work. We ain't got no leaders. Leaders have power,
Right.
right? When you talk about just recently with our president, he came out and called corona the Chinese disease or the Chinese virus.
Right. Right.
And the business folks of China was like, take that back, right? And they already have a component in his administration, that being the wife of Mitch McConnell,
Right.
right? So she already got a clear ear to the president. Nope, we ain't gonna do that, Mr. President. You know what I'm saying? No, Republican Party, we are not going to do that. So that's where I'm at with it, brother. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's good. I mean, I was just talking about that because we get a lot of that stuff, and you hear many our people running around in the conscious community talking about, where's the such and such leader and this and this and this. You'll never see them because they put things in place in order for things to work. They got lobbyists, they got all kind of people. That's why there's no uproar and none of this stuff. And they have a mafia. Need to be reminded of that. They have a mafia. So their businesses
The got a mafia.
right. Their underworld takes care of their overworld. So their overworld is a reflection of their underworld. So a lot of these organizations that we denounce and move away from, that we don't mess with no more, and we ostracize them and we try to put distance, that was our standing army, and that was our mafia. So if you don't believe it, say something about one of them leaders and see if you don't come up missing. So, where is that? So if you want that kind of, support, then you'll walk in those spaces, when it's time to walk in those spaces. Just like you were saying, Sister Keisha, if you don't require people to do anything for you, they won't do a damn thing for you. They won't do anything for you. And they should know that there's a consequence that comes along with that. So if this Chinese restaurant don't pay its protection money, nobody's going to worry. Nobody will ever find out about it. The business will just close. You see, so when you're looking at these satellites, it come along with ramifications. 80 to 90% of what they take in goes back to their nation. This is how they're able to operate. So when you start looking at that and we say, okay, well, we're looking for liberation, where is your focus at? So 90%, where is 90% of your income going to? Where's it dedicated to? Who's it for? You see what I'm saying? So this is how you begin to mobilize economically. So if you're looking to say, okay, I'm earmarking 20% of my income as an investment for these black businesses or these black schools or whatever the case may be, I'm allocating that. Now I know what I'm going to work for. So now I'm not going to my elevator plantation. I'm going to my liberation strategy position. That's a shift in thought in your mind frame. You'll have better energy waking up and going to work because you know who you're going to work for. Because we've been lying, talking about we're going to work for our families. And then when we get home, we ain't got no interaction. We so spent from the day and all of this The people we said we going to work for, we ain't even got no time for them. You see what I'm saying? So, it becomes a farce in that situation when we look at it and say, what and who we're doing this for. The evidence has to become more evident. So starting to look at that and mobilize. And then you said, work was within your hands. So if you got these religious organizations and they don't have something set up for your community, tell them they got a chance to implement it, or that shit is shut down. So if you're there, you got these religious institutions that are there. If they don't have no daycare, no homeschool co-op, no food program, if they don't have access to first aid classes, CPR, any of that stuff, if you're not using this thing other than to ring the bell come Sunday or whatever day of the week you ring in the bell, you're not being there and put in a position for a purpose for anything else other than being a bloodsucker. And we don't need no more bloodsuckers. So we got to call everybody to task. Your black business, okay, so how much of the revenue that you receive from your black business is used for black programs, since we was talking about programs earlier, or for the benefit for scholarships or whatever the case may be. If we don't see it, we will withdraw our economic support, and you're done, because nobody else is buying from you. You understand? So, like, if we don't have that, just like you were saying that there's an agenda and going to these politicians with tasks, we got to go to everybody with that same task and say, what are you doing? We don't need 50 churches. Y'all might want to come together and think about combining. We might need 5. So, and you might want to be in a position to start welcoming yourself to be a space where black businesses can come and put their word out and do these workshops, things like that. So if you're not in that position, you're a bloodsucker, and we don't have no more room for no more bloodsucking going on. We can't fight 2 wars, an internal and an external war. So now this is what we're doing. So we need to look at it like that and approach the situation, with that. So that's just, I'm saying, a little tidbit for me. But for you, I'm thankful for your time, and I don't want to keep you longer than, what we got going on. So final remarks, acknowledgement, shout outs, if you want to give shout outs, and also promote your program. And, for the family that's listening, go and support Thorough Black Talk.
Thank you, brother, again for having me. As I said, I'm excited about being a part of this great conference. This is a milestone in our left foot forward, as my brother Ashe says, towards freedom. Family, you can catch me every Thursday, 8 to 10 p.m. on Thorough Black Talk Radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and our Facebook page so that you stay alert with information, and use that information. Don't just hoard it. Use it for your own personal development. We are all growing and learning from each other. Never stop learning. Never, ever stop learning. Keep pushing that agenda of intelligence. Everything you do should be intelligence gathering. Even if it's just for yourself, it has to be intelligence gathering. If you know of someone locally who has been putting in work in your communities, please support them, because freedom isn't free. We have this angst about us, it's going to come by spook in the sky, or it's going to come by happenstance, but that's never the case. Warfare is continuous. Our enemies have never stopped waging war against us. They wage war against us 24/7, and we have to be as vigilant. So I'm excited to be a part of this conference. Great educators, great scholars, great businessmen and women, and social activists who are a part of this, musicians. I am excited to be a part of it. So everybody, please get your tickets. Follow my Thorough Black Talk Radio page and Do the Knowledge Radio for more information on how you can get tickets for this conference. Share it. Tell someone that you know who may be interested. Even if those who aren't interested, maybe you want to give it as a gift. to someone who you think should have information. These tickets can be purchased as a gift for someone else. Think of it like that as well. So, family, I am grateful to be a part of this. I see my brother Kuji Chagalia in the building. You know, I am honored to be a part of this, and I thank you, brothers, for coming up with this. I know, our people who are watching, they think, it's just these brothers and sisters who got together to make this thing happen, but it is their ancestors who make this thing happen. We are the chosen ones. Those of us who, if we like to say woke or awake, we are the chosen ones. We are being called by our ancestors, and we have to follow that God because, as I often say, family, I'm not worried about who says what about Sister Keisha on this plane. That means absolutely nothing to me. I have to have a viable answer for Malcolm when I see him. I have to have a viable answer for my great grandmother and my great grandfathers when I see them. I'm not coming to them half stepping. So you have to think in that mindset as well. We all going to leave here as unless we got a magical pill to keep us here forever. We all gonna make our exit. And what are you going to tell your grandmother and your grandfather? That you didn't do anything to fight for everything that they done, everything that they worked for, everything that they fought for. That you did absolutely nothing but twerk on TikTok. You got to be out of your mind. So I hope we all understand that we have a hand in this. Everybody plays a part. Know your position, please. I am not a musician. I never tell the musicians what they should do. I am not an educator as far as scholastically is concerned when it comes to schools and how that should be run. I don't go over to the Barudis and say, well, you need to have this for your education program. I stay in my lane. I am a researcher, I'm a political specialist, and I'm a strategist. So I stay in my lane. I don't deviate. I don't tell sports people what they should be doing. I don't tell people who run programs for, fathers and mothers coming out of the penitentiary. I don't know anything about that, but I will work with them. I will work with any and everybody who's on the same page for African liberation. So your religious apparatus don't matter to me. Your financial status don't matter to me. Your political status don't matter to me. As long as you're black first, we good and we can rock. So I'm looking forward to taking part in this conference. As I said, if you all cannot attend, maybe you could purchase tickets and gift it to someone else who you think should have this information. Because out of this, I would hope that we go into control of what RBG is, what it means, and then make it beneficial for us as a whole. So that's where I'm at on it, family. I love you all. I'm going to go back downstairs and finish my workout. So I got to do that. I got to keep in shape because, you can't fight a war and you got ailments. You got to be able to run. You got to be able to move. You got to be able to infect, the areas in which you live in. If you're a foot on the ground, I can tell you how to get out of this city without using a vehicle. I can tell you the quickest way to tunnels that other ethnic groups have for their safety in case something goes wrong here that the average don't know about. And that comes from inspection and investigation and research. So I love you all and I wish you all nothing but the best and y'all stay healthy.
All right, Sister Keisha, thank you much. Abibi Fahodier, Abibi Tomi, Black Power.
Black Power family, y'all stay up.
Black power.
Robert Alias.
Yes, sir. Sir, yes, sir.
Right. I'm telling you, this whirlwind is a whirlwind unto itself. This whirlwind, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Anytime I could get the Barudis and Sister Keisha in the same day, right? Hey, I don't know what to say. You understand what I'm saying? So, for you,
Remember, the Django told him, he said, I got two guns. And he used the N-word. We can't use the N-word, but you had two guns.
yeah, yes. So, what thoughts do you got to share with us before we wrap this thing up? I want to go to the website real quick as you give us some words before we go.
Brother Knowledge Born, I don't know if the people, if they didn't get excited tonight, um, you might want to check their pulse because what I saw tonight, what I heard tonight was Sister Keisha coming in that spirit of Queen Nzinga, talking about that espionage and the gathering of intelligence. And, it was just, that I heard and felt that spirit of, Queen Nandi of the Maroons and the Dindara of Palmares. I mean, she is standing on the shoulders of some giants, and it was evident tonight. And that was just a smidget, the very tip top of the iceberg. And you know that the 14th, man, look at here. She bringing slaughter. And I got excited. I was ready to, what I'm saying, gear up and get ready. And hey, what's the move? What's the move? But it speaks to, like she said, our collective ability to mobilize a global African army, because that's what we did. And truth be told, it took 3 weeks. It only took 3 weeks for us to organize and mobilize for one aim, one cause, one focus, um, a global African army. 3 weeks. So when people say African people lack the ability to organize, they lack the ability to put aside ego and all that kind of stuff, we emphatically, what I'm saying, threw that to the ash can of history. We totally, each and every one of us are walking, that path that the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey laid before us. And I know for a fact right now he's applauding from the Gungun. I know this to be true because she was emphatically right when she said it's not mine, it's not Bumani's, it's not hers, it's ours. This is us walking in one accord. It is us making sure that shield and that spear was picked up and we moving forward. We understand that we engaged in battle. I think a lot of times, we kind of forget that at the end of the day, it's going to be a fight. And that walk fire woman that was just, on your show, I'm gonna tell you right now, I know she's ready for a fight. Mama and Baba Yada tonight. Oh my. Even though I know they just gave, they just threw a little salt. It was just a little bit, but the spirit and the beauty of always seeing that warrior couple being the great example that they are, man, that moves me, that inspires me. They set an expectation of African excellence that each and every of us have to at some point either try to meet or exceed. But the bar is so high, but that's how it should be. That's how it should be. It should be a level of expectation. It should be an example of exemplary that Africans have to not only strive for, but teach their children to strive for. And I think that, the example that you had on tonight with the Barudis was second to none. I mean, it just seeing that, that couple and looking regal. But I know they're workers, because I'm pretty sure if you asked, Mama and Baba Baruti, would you want to be royalty or would you want to be engaged in collective work? I'm pretty sure they're the workers. They're the sheriffs. They're not the keepers. So it was a beautiful thing to see, man. So tonight I got excited because it's just a preview. It's just a preview. The work that you're putting in, man, I'm telling you, I'm excited about that aim. I want to see what you say, that precision shooting. I want to see that grouping, right there in center mass. So I'm listening, I am anticipating, sitting at the feet, learning so much, and I think what I'm gonna have to do is, I think I'm gonna cast on the TV. I'm gonna have two other computers right here. So when we have the breakout rooms, I ain't trying to miss nothing. Because how do you choose? How do you choose, who to watch? When you have so many great scholars, and so many great teachers, and so many great Asafos and Shinnok, and Jagna, presenting and giving you the information. And like I said the other day, this is resistance, education that we put forth. This is offering a viable, resistance to the pandemic, miseducation, diseducation, flat out lying, ignorance, and inequality in education, a savage inequality in education. So therefore, if for that reason alone, people want to come out and be a part of this and understand that, listen, man, there's so many gems and so many jewels. But not only that, man, listen here, I'm gonna tell you this. This is an exclusive, brother Knowledge Bro. This is an exclusive.
Drop that exclusive.
We just added the spoken word artist, Miss Georgia Me. Miss Georgia Me has been featured twice on Deaf Poetry. She's been on Monique's show, and the sister is about that life. The energy and the articulation that she's gonna bring from the spoken word realm. It's gonna put you in that mind of those great griots that we've heard about, of West Africa. And it's coming together. We have a few more things coming together that I'm keeping under wraps. But I'm telling you, even though we have a solid base, people still hit my inbox, call them a phone. Hey, Kuji, you know what I'm saying? What's this? What's that? And what I'm trying my best to do is be very selective. I'm trying my best to make sure that everybody we put in front of the people gives them something they can take away from that workshop, from that breakout room, that they can use forever, that they can pass on to their children, because that's what it's about. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Baba Baruti, Mama Ya, Sister Keisha, that old guy, Knowledge Born Allah, and Do the Knowledge Radio, they gonna bring it, man. And I'm telling you, I think that people, what I'm always thinking, I know for a fact that people are gonna leave with things that's gonna prepare us for this fight, because at some point we have to stop tiptoeing through the tulips and understand that all this political education, all this, African-centered education, is to almost crystallize our thinking that this is going to be a fight. We got to stop being afraid of that, because at the end of the day, the ones who are the enemies, because it's not just the Euros. We got the Asians too. We got the Arabs too. These folks don't deal well with fractions. And if we thinking that we could just live our culture side by side with them, then we're not looking at history. And it's history which is best qualified to reward our research. They do not do well with fractions. They cannot live next to us, because at the end of the day, if you leave us to our own devices, we outshine everybody on the planet. And this is not me playing the dozens. This is the fact of the matter. So what we're doing, what we're engaged in, I said it once, I said it twice. I know for a fact that we're engaged in treason right now. I know this. I know for a fact that we are attempting to get our psychology right and understand that we need critical mass to have critical movement to engage this fight. I understand it ain't gonna be just a frontal assault. We have to engage in guerrilla warfare in certain places that we are on the planet. But this is what we've done. We have connected the dots all across the globe. We have connected the dot just like the most honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey told us to do. And because we've done that, and because we set this example, our children emphatically have an example that they can pull from that is a little bit closer than something that happened 100 years ago. See, that was our responsibility. And we collectively, answered that call. So now we've set the tone for our children. And then they can build this into their children and so on down the line or so on up the line. So man, look here. If you have not, purchased a ticket, I think that you're doing yourself a disservice. You have a few more days before we go to our regular price. So right now we're still at a discount price. If you know somebody out there, like Sister Keisha said, that may be interested but don't necessarily know about what we have going on, purchase a ticket for them. It'll be a great investment. It'll be a great Black August gift. It's an investment because it's not only an investment in them, it's an investment in our future around the planet. And I think that they will leave with so many jewels. I think they'll leave with things to refine their habits of character, so that we can get to that Iwariri that we so often talk about. Most importantly, if the people out there can hear my voice, what I want them to do, talk to those people who don't necessarily know the things that we know, have seen the things that we've seen. Get them a ball, bring them a little closer. Let them see that we don't bite. Let them see that we ain't too crazy. We're not some wild-eyed radicals out here, trying to, I don't know what they think we're trying to do. But at the end of the day, it is important for us to be self-determining, self-naming, self-defining. Kuji Chagalia. So take that in mind. Take that into consideration. Those aunties and uncles and cousins, let them see power. Let them know that, even the wild-eyed radicals, yourself and everybody else who's involved in this, people don't know the success we've had in their world, in their lane. And we chose to say, you know what? Let me take these knowledge, expertise like you and Sister Keisha talked about. Let me bring these back to us so we can utilize them for our growth and development. So we're not fringe people. We're just people who are fed up and understand that at the end of the day, if we want the extirpation, the annihilation of African people to end globally, we have to be about the business of the work. So that's all I have. Peace and Black Power, family. I love each and every one of you sincerely. And the 14th, August 14th through the 16th, be in the building. Be in the building. I think you will be more than happy that you made that investment. We have at least 10 breakout rooms every day. That's 10 different workshops that you can attend. At least 10. We have a keynote speaker every day. We have full podcast / radio shows running every day. We're going to have spoken word. We're going to have, release parties. all of these things are geared to and focusing on activating, motivating that re-Africanization process in us, centering us on us. What you say, Brother Knowledge Born, that foo-foo, for us. So, and I think that as this thing, we get closer and closer, you're going to start seeing, more and more African people, tuned in, trying to see what's going on. And man, but this is a beautiful event. And, I am 100% honored that the ancestors placed this in my mind, my heart, and my spirit. And I'm also honored and glad that when I reached out and Brother Bomani reached out, people saw our sincerity and our love for our people, that they were willing to be a part of this. I'm glad I got a little bit of integrity, because I'm pretty sure, if I was a shiesty person, people would have been like, man, I ain't got nothing to do with that. So I really appreciate, African people understanding that, this is 100% about us. It's not about me, because when it pops off, hey, anybody gonna see me anyways. I'm fading to the background and letting y'all do your work. Like Sister Keisha said, I'm not gonna tell you how to do your thing. Everybody keeps saying, what? No, because I know you're gonna do it. I know you're gonna get it done. I trust you. I see your work. I know what you've done. So therefore, I have no worries. I have no concerns, and this thing it is history in the making. We are writing the history for tomorrow. We are continuing that our story string that Mama Bahia Bello talks about. It's unbroken. It's unbroken. We aren't doing anything new. You know, Africans here in America have always yearned to either separate mentally or physically, to return mentally and physically back home. So we're not doing anything new. There's nothing new under the sun. We're just continuing in that warrior line. You know, we're fighting the fight the best way we know how. And it's a beautiful thing because now I know I got brothers on the continent. You know, I got sisters in Brick City. You know, I got sisters in Belize, and it's a beautiful thing. Now, you know, if there were a time that I ever felt a little lonely, or I felt like I was going it alone, first of all, I'm never alone because I always got my ancestors. That's one. But now I got flesh and blood and bone that's rocking with me. So, hey, August 14th through the 16th, be in the building. 100 years in the whirlwind. Get caught up. Get caught up. Visit www.dtc1.org to purchase your admission. All right. Like my brother say, D as in David Walker, T as Thomas Sankora. He flipped it on us and went C as in Colin Ferguson and the number one. You know, go ahead and get over there, y'all. Get over there. Because, you know, hey, surprise the limit. I can't give, it's only so many links that we can sell anyways. You know, there's a max capacity that Zoom has. So make sure that you and the family.
Definitely. www.dtc1.org. And the last thing I want to say is I want to read from the back of this book. I love this book. Like I live in this book. It's so much in it. So much in it. You know, people, they might hold this book up, but I don't know if they read it. I don't know if they read it and read through it. The type of mind that George Jackson has, because he lives, you know, that black dragon, he lives, you know, and he raised up a black dragon little brother. I'm his little brother, you know, I'm his Jonathan. I'm his Jonathan, and I'm the Jonathan of African liberation. So when he wrote on the back of this book in this letter, he said, if my enemies, your enemies, prove stronger than us, at least I want them to know that they made one righteous African man extremely angry. And he says on another occasion, he wrote, they will never count me among the broken men. So as Blood in My Eye affirms, George Jackson remained unbroken. So can you look at your reflection and say the same? Can you look at your life and say the same? Can you look at your politics and say the same? Can you look at what you've been offered and say the same? This righteous African man right here is extremely angry. Angry enough to always have blood in my eye. For the liberation of my people and the decimation of our enemies, foreign, domestic, internal, external, on whatever level that is necessary. One of my favorite characters of all time, Shona, in The Last Dragon. Eddie Arcadian came to him with a briefcase full of money. He said, keep your money. He said, just get that punk at the designated place at the designated time, and I will designate his ass for dismemberment. So everybody ain't out here for the pleasantries. Some of us is ready to go all the way in. So, Brother Alias, thank you for giving me this opportunity to showcase this talent that we have, these brilliant African minds that have converged and assembled together to form this African coalition and to be the whirlwind. You know, like that whirlwind that was in The Wiz. You know, they be watching The Wizard of Oz. That whirlwind that was in The Wiz, it was dancing. You know what I'm saying? It was dancing when it took Dorothy over there. It was dancing. It was smooth. It was right there. It was that ancestral whirlwind that took her to a place for her to recognize her divinity and all of those aspects of herself that she met along the way. So by the time she was there to face her showing up, she was sure enough ready to do what was needed
Right.
to be done. And she was crowned with an ascension. But that's a story for another time. I don't know. People may not never seen the Wiz before. Dorothy was out there with her Watoto. Uh-oh. That was, hey. So yeah, we up out of here. www.dtc1.org. Right, if you be looking around and been doing some support and then some sharing and all kind of stuff, you might get some sponsors in a couple of days. You might get some sponsorship. It might be some people gift you your way in. So if you become identified with some of these people that's helping promote this event and drawing attention to this event and to these broadcasts, you might not have to worry about digging in your pocket for no price. So you might want to look and see what's going on. This is a coalition, so we need everybody that is able and that is willing. So when you see these posts or you get tagged, tag somebody else, share, spread the word. Spread the word. This is a coalition, and this is for our benefit. A one-on-one situation that got no cut in it and no hidden agenda. The agenda is, African liberation. So
First and foremost.
First and foremost. And only.
That's right.
But we out of here.
Peace and Black Power, family. Get caught up in the whirlwind. 100 years.
Yeah. Now we gonna tell them. Night in front. We tell them like this, yo. I'm an African. I'm a African. I'm an African. I'm a African. Yeah, y'all like that? No more. This man's mind is open. I'm an African. I'm a African. I'm an African. I'm a. Let's get back to the
motive is best developed by recognizing the common enemy.